Hey guys, day 2 of factoring and solving. I just wanted to really practice this so we know that we are good to go. So just some more practice with factoring and solving. So remember the zero product property told us that anything times 0 is 0. So if you have two factors like A times B, and that can be, factors as well, that means that either A has to be equal to 0 or B has to be equal to 0 or both equal to 0. And so when you solve by factoring, you factor it and then you set each factor equal to 0 and finish solving for that x. So let's start out with example 1 here. In order for the zero product property to work, the equation does have to equal 0. So start by adding 4x to the 3x on the left side, and then a positive 10, so subtract 10 from the negative 5, so combining like terms. So there's nothing with this x squared, so 2x squared. 3x plus 4x is 7x. Negative 5 and negative 10 is negative 15 equals 0. So must equal 0. Remember to take out a greatest common factor if there is one. Unfortunately, 2, 7, and 15 are not divisible by anything the same, any like terms. So it means we just have to factor it. So factoring, you can use guess and check as well at this point, but I really like the box method. So it's 2x squared, and then negative 15 goes here. So you put the first and the last term in the first and last spot. Then remember you multiply those together. So 2 times 15 is negative 30. And then you take factors of negative 30. So two numbers that multiply the 30 but add up to 7x, which is what we have in the middle here. So 1 and 30 doesn't work. 2 and 15 doesn't work. 3 and 10 would work if you make the 3 negative. That would add up to 7 and multiply to negative 30. So negative 3x and 10x. Then figure out the outside of the box. And to do that, you look at like what do this row have in common? 2x squared and 3x. Really, they only have an x in common. This column, 2x squared and 10x, they have a 2x in column, or 2x in common. And a 2x times an x gives me the 2x squared. Then x times what here would give me negative 3x, which would be negative 3. Then 2x times 5 would give you the 10x here, and 5 times negative 3 is the negative 15. So that works out, which means that I'm going to have to erase this. My factors are 2x minus 3 times x plus 5. So I get that from 2x minus 3 and then x and positive 5 right here. Then set each of those factors equal to 0. And I'm going to get, this one's a two-step. You have to start by adding 3. And then 2x equals 3, divide by 2, you get 3/2 or 1.5. I prefer that it's left in an improper fraction. And then on this side, you subtract 5 and get x equals negative 5. All right, the one on the left side, it has to equal 0 again, so subtract 4x. This time the 4x is going to go in the middle of the two terms there because it's not alike, and you want to do x squared, then x, then your constant. So 3x squared minus 4x minus 15 equals 0. Factor it. The 3x squared is the first term, negative 15 is the last term. Multiply 3 times negative 15 would be negative 45. You want factors that multiply to negative 45 but add up to 4. So I think that would be 5 times 9. I want negative 4, so negative 9. And you put those here, so 5x and negative 9x, and that's going to give me my negative 4x in the middle. Then figuring out the outside. The first row here only has x in common because 3 and 5 aren't divisible each by 3. But 3 and 9, you can divide both by 3 and x. So 3x times x is x squared, then x times 5 is 5x, and 3x times negative 3 is negative 9x. So then this factors to 3x plus 5 and x minus 3. Set each of those equal to 0 and solve for x. So start by the left side subtracting 5 from both sides. 3x equals negative 5. Divide by 3 and x equals negative 5/3. And then on the right, solve for x by adding 3 to both sides, and x equals 3. Since in example 2, I start with a x cubed, that means that I'm going to have 3 answers because the exponent tells me how many answers I'm going to have for the equation. And then 8, 12, and 8 are all divisible by 4 and an x. So I can take out a 4x to begin with, which means dividing each term by 4x. So I'm going to be left with 2x squared plus a 3x and then minus 2 equals 0. Then factoring the middle more. So let's see. We got a 2x squared and a negative 2, and then those multiply to negative 4 and has to add up to 3, so it'd be negative 1 and positive 4. So negative 1x and 4x in the diagonals to make my 3x. Figuring out the outside, the 2x squared and the 4x are both divisible by 2x, and 2x times x is 2x squared. X times negative 1 is negative 1x, and 2x times 2 is 4x. So this would be 2x, 2x minus 1, and x plus 2. So if you're guessing and checking, 2x squared is 2x times x, and then you want the last 2 to multiply to negative 2, so negative 1 and 2, and then you check the outside and the inside. So this is 4x and this is negative 1x to make sure that they add up to 3x. So that's how you do that again. Okay, solving then. So now you set each factor, so 4x has to either equal 0, or 2x minus 1 equals 0, or x plus 2 equals 0. Then solve each one. So 4x equals 0, divide by 4, x equals 0 is one answer. If 2x minus 1 equals 0, then add 1, and 2x equals 1, divide by 2, x equals a half is another answer. And the last one, if x plus 2 equals 0, subtract 2, and x equals negative 2 is your last answer. So there was, in fact, 3 answers there. X squared minus 25 is a difference of perfect squares pattern. So this one factors to x plus 5 and x minus 5. Since 5 times negative 5 adds or multiplies to negative 25 and adds up to 0 in the middle. So x plus 5 equals 0, or x minus 5 equals 0. So x equals negative 5, or x equals 5, and x equals 5. This one, I can divide everything here by 3. Since it is equal to 0, you could just divide everything, both sides of the equation, by 3 to eliminate the 3. So then you're with x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. If you're factoring it, though, technically the factoring answer would be 3x squared minus x minus 6. You can't divide everything like in example 2 up here. I divided by 4x. Since it has an x, it must go out front, because since it has an x, it has a solution to the equation. If it is just a constant that you're dividing by, like a value of 3 or 2, you can divide both sides of the equation by 3 and get rid of the 3. Because it's not an x, it doesn't add to our answers. Even if it was out front here, I wouldn't have an x to solve I wouldn't have an x to solve for it. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so factoring this is an easier one because it's just x squared. So you just do x squared, x times x, and then multiplies the -6 and adds up to -1 in the middle will be -3 and +2. So then x minus 3 equals 0, or x plus 2 equals 0, which would be add 3 to get x equals 3. On this side, subtract 2 from both sides to get x equals -2. This is another difference of perfect squares. So don't forget, it's perfect square numbers and you're subtracting. So this one factors to 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. So if 2x plus 3 equals 0 or 2x minus 3 equals 0. So subtracting 3, 2x is -3, divided by 2, -3/2, which means the other one should be +3/2 because it's the same thing except for minus instead of plus. So you add 3 and then you divide by 2 and it's 3/2. This one can also be solved with square roots since there's no x term. So 4x squared, add 9 to both sides equals 9. Dividing by 4, x squared equals 9/4. Square root both sides, x equals plus or minus 3/2. So, okay, there you go. Give it a try.